Elton John has famously had his struggles with substance abuse during his career, but it's his notorious and sometimes volatile temper that has caused him the most problems over the years.
Will you just
From fallouts with other superstars to throwing tantrums in airports, these are just some of the victims of Elton John. Starting with the material girl, Madonna. The two iconic figures in the music industry have had a long-standing feud that's marked by public spats and harsh criticisms.
Madonna, best live act. Off.
The tension begins in 2002, when the rocketman called her track Die Another Day from the film of the same name the worst Bond tune ever. Then only 2 years later, while accepting a Classic Songwriter Award at the Q Awards, the superstar piano man called Madonna out for lip-syncing in her concerts.
Madonna, best live act. Off. Since when has lip syncing been live? Sorry about that, but I think everyone who lip syncs in public on stage when you pay like 75 quid to see them should be shot.
Madonna's publicist responded to the comments by saying, Madonna does not lip sync, nor does she spend her time trashing other artists. That rivalry would only intensify when in 2012, Elton John had more unflattering words for the material girl.
No, sorry, she's her career's over. I can tell you that. But no, she had to prove that she was like, and she looks like a f***ing fairground stripper.
In more recent years, it seems that the two have mended their relationship, with Elton John recently taking to Instagram to praise Madonna for her tribute to AIDS awareness during the performance of Live to Tell on the recent Celebration tour. We're deeply moved by the heartfelt tribute from Madonna during her Celebration tour, he said. Thank you, Madonna, for your advocacy and compassion, and for raising important awareness of the ongoing mission to end AIDS. Yet, Madonna's not the only one to have been on the wrong end of one of Elton John's pointed remarks. Another megastar female singer Elton John took aim at for lip-syncing was Janet Jackson, one of the most popular female artists of all time. Elton John was upset at music magazines for writing reviews of Janet Jackson, saying that it was the greatest show and giving her 4.5 stars, while meanwhile going off about how it was lip-synced and wasn't a show. He then went on to claim he would rather go and see a drag queen than to see Janet Jackson. Jackson was touring on her Unbreakable album at the time and never gave Elton John response. Even one-time collaborator and close friend George Michael didn't stay out of his firing line. In a 2004 interview with Heat magazine, around the time of Michael's Patience album, the Crocodile Rocker went on record as saying, "George is in a strange place. There seems to be a deep-rooted unhappiness in his life, and it shows on the album. All I would say to George is, you should get out more." As a response to Elton John's comments, the former Wham star wrote a letter to the magazine that published his thoughts, saying, Elton John knows very little about George Michael, and that's a fact. Michael also went on to say, what he doesn't know is that I have rarely been as happy and confident as I am today, thanks to my partner Kenny and the continued support of my fans. Despite the public squabble, Elton and George did patch things up several years later when they posed together for a photo at the Elton John AIDS Foundation at the Royal Opera House in London in 2011. Elton John was full of praise for George Michael after his passing and frequently paid tribute to his unique talent, including a heartfelt rendition of Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me at his final UK performance, along with his Glastonbury Festival headline set, which ironically also fell on what would have been George Michael's 60th birthday. Around the same time as Elton John's feud with George Michael, issues between Elton John and Tina Turner arose when the two musical legends were planning a joint tour. Their collaboration would be highly anticipated, but tensions quickly surfaced during rehearsals. Tina Turner, known for her perfectionism, criticized Elton John's piano playing and performance style.
I made a mistake when I needed to show him how to play Proud Mary. The mistake is you don't show Elton John how to play his piano.
But she did. And Elton John's reaction?
You don't tell me how to play my piano. Oh, Lord, it just exploded. It was like the past slapping me back in the face truly before all of those people, when all I simply was trying to do was get an arrangement.
Like Tina Turner, singer Lily Allen has allegedly had her own disputes with Elton John. When appearing at the 2008 GQ Men of the Year Awards, the two appeared on stage in this visibly tense exchange.
We reach a very special point in the evening.
Well, you going to have another drink?
Elton, you know what? I'm 40 years younger than you. I got my whole life ahead of me.
Another deceased UK music legend that Elton John eventually fell out with was superstar David Bowie. Early on in their careers, the two were good friends. They started out being friends and used to hang out together with Mark Bolan, going to nightclubs together. But unfortunately, that friendship didn't last very long, as Elton John added that he and Bowie just drifted apart. Shortly after they began their bond, Bowie moved to Las Vegas and made a series of unwarranted remarks about the tiny dancer singer. It's safe to say the comments riled Elton John up, who had nothing but respect for the starman, and seemingly any sort of friendship that they'd struck up would be on the rocks several years later. Elton John talked about how David Bowie would make remarks about him in interviews, calling him the queen of rock and roll, but then jokingly made snide remarks about David Bowie's drug addictions. Bowie didn't hold back from making remarks back at Elton John. In one interview, he directly went at him, saying that he considered himself responsible for a new school of pretensions and that they knew who they were, and then dropped Elton John's name. Elton John later went on to comment that he honestly didn't know what the problem was, but that there was clearly a problem, that Bowie had never been his cup of tea, and he likewise was never Bowie's. Along with the feuds the singer has experienced with other musicians, Sir Elton John has also gone head-to-head with the media on more than one occasion. All throughout his career, he's been a vocal critic of the media, never hesitating to call out journalists and publications that he felt were being unfair or malicious. In 2013, he sued the Times newspaper for libel over articles that he said had falsely linked him to a controversial tax avoidance scheme. The piano man believed that he was defamed in an article in which the Times said it was revealing the secrets of tax avoiders and contained the bold headline, "How Movie Millions Are Moved Offshore." The Times would issue an apology and paid damages to Elton John, further highlighting his readiness to defend his reputation through legal means. However, this was not the first time that Elton John had taken the print media to court. In 2006, the Daily Mail agreed to pay him 100,000 British pounds in libel damages plus costs after claiming falsely that the singer had banned his guests from talking to him at a charity fundraising event. The articles falsely alleged that Elton had issued a bizarre and absurd edict to guests invited to his annual charity fundraising White Tie and Tiara Summer Ball. The article alleged that Elton John had told guests not to approach him during the event, thereby acting like an old-fashioned royalty or some tin-pot dictator. The Sunday Times published an apology and correction soon after publication. As well as the print media, Elton John has been no stranger to confrontations with the paparazzi. And one of the most famous of these took place in Taiwan's international airport in 2004 when he arrived for a concert as part of his world tour. Upon arrival, the superstar singer would be met by a large group of paparazzi and journalists who aggressively swarmed around him, attempting to take photos and ask questions. Frustrated and angered by the chaotic scene, what then ensued was a 45-minute slinging match between the Taiwanese press and the English singer-songwriter.
Taiwan! Hello? Yeah, Taiwan.
Yeah, we'd love to get out of Taiwan.
Yes,
It's full of people like you.
What's the flight?
Pig.
After the death of his close friend Princess Diana in 1997, he became even more critical of the paparazzi, blaming the invasive press for contributing to the circumstances which led to her tragic accident, and used his platform to call for more respectful treatment of public figures. But when it comes to confrontations with high-profile families, Elton John has never been afraid to call out Dolce & Gabbana founders Domenico Dolce and Stefano Gabbana after what he felt were insensitive comments about IVF as an option for couples wanting to conceive.
Offensive to say that any child was synthetic. Their own personal beliefs about family are their own beliefs, and I respect them.
In an interview with Italian magazine Paranorma, Domenico Dolce said, "We oppose gay adoptions. The only family is the traditional one. He then went on to describe children born through IVF as children of chemistry, synthetic children, rented uterus semen chosen from a catalog. And of course, Elton John, who had conceived 2 of his sons through IVF treatment, wasted no time in responding on social media, calling for a boycott of the label and saying, "Your archaic thinking is out of step with the times, just like your fashions. I shall never wear Dolce & Gabbana ever again." Dolce realized his words may have been just a little insensitive and then promptly apologized. "I am so sorry. It was not my intention to offend anyone," he told Vogue's Sarah Mower during a conversation in Milan, continuing on to say, "I've done some soul searching. I've talked to Stefano a lot about this. I've realized that my words were inappropriate, and I apologize." As well as the media, the paparazzi, and other superstar singers, the Piano Man has never been quiet on sharing his opinions on TV talent shows. When asked by Radio 4 Front Row's presenter John Wilson whether he had ever watched a music talent show, he admitted that he never had and claimed that TV shows were fast-tracking people to fame who were not in a position to deal with it and then move on to the next wannabe. He criticized shows like The Voice of producing non-entities, saying that the contest is more about the coaches than it is the contestants. He claimed that nobody who was on The Voice in America had a hit record, and that the English BBC version was all about the judges. He's never held back about his views on television and video, and say that they've done a lot of damage to music, propelling people into stardom that aren't ready to do it, and they're only as good as the next song. He hates to see people being cast aside, and it breaks his heart to see people who go on those shows go through what they do and win awards, and that it's just not fair. Legendary music and TV mogul Simon Cowell had this to say in response.
Well, look, this is somebody who charges what? $1 million a private gig? $2 million? You know, I don't know whether he's concerned about himself. Maybe it is. But they always bleat on that we're not giving other people a chance. And I always want to say to them, I tell you what, you've just made $1 million of your last private gig. Go and give it to a bunch of young musicians you care about, put them in the studio, go and nurture them, go and spend some time looking after them, then I'll buy your argument. They're only worried about themselves.
In his recent biography, Elton John admitted to his explosive temper that has at times had catastrophic ramifications on his life and all of those around him. Still, though, the Piano Man remains beloved around the world for his endless charity work and stunning concert tours. But what do you think of Sir Elton John? Let me know in the comments below, like the video, and subscribe so that you never miss another video from Project Hysteria. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.